Well, if you've watched TV this week, you have heard this week's talking point. Republicans and the people who vote for them are bigots, every one of them. The geniuses over at The View, the daytime TV show, suggested that almost half the country is just flat out immoral and should be shunned on those grounds. Watch.
But will Republicans now step up to the plate with Donald Trump? Because he has been using, I think, the border wall as sort of this dog whistle for racism. The government is still shut down, and I think it's all about, let's not let all these brown people in.
There's 42% of this country that support the wall. Are they all racist?
That's a good question.
No. I'm asking you that. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there are a lot of people that believe in security.
I don't know. Is Donald Trump racist?
Duh. Do you think 42% of Americans are racist?
I just said I don't know.
Yeah. It's The View. You can write it off like, what do they know? But it wasn't just The View. Nicole Wallace had a real job at one point. She was White House communications director briefly, I think, under the last Republican administration. Here's her view.
This does not have a parallel on the left. It doesn't. There isn't a strain of racism on the left. So I think that this gets brushed under the rug. People sort of tolerate. It's been normalized. Like you just said, they don't have anywhere else to go, so they attach to the Republican Party.
Yeah, no racists on the left, literally not one, says Nicole Wallace. Over on ESPN, one of their hosts suggested it was racist, not surprisingly, for the president to serve the Clemson football team fast food at the White House. Fast food is the food of bigots, of course.
When I saw him giving the football players, it's a predominantly black sport and fast food, my thought went a very different place. Also,
I think the president likes fast food.
A bunch of jobs. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Okay, so the consensus is the racism is on the right. Only conservatives can be racist. So that raises a few questions. What exactly is racism? What does it look like? How do you know if you are racist? And so we have a handy checklist for you. Get a pen and follow along. See if you can answer these questions. A racist, what would a racist do? A racist would support treating people differently based purely on their skin color. They'd hand out jobs and contracts and college admissions letters based on your DNA rather than anything that you had done. They'd also say that some people's opinions don't matter because of their skin color. That would be a racist statement, wouldn't it? They would ridicule people regularly on the basis of their skin color. Racism? Yeah. They would also believe in race-based retribution, most ominously. That means people of one race paying the price today for actions decades or centuries ago by people they may not have any relationship to at all other than a similar appearance. What would that be? Well, that would be the definition of racism, right? People like this might even cancel activist marches if too many people of the wrong color showed up. What is that if not racism? They might also write op-eds saying they don't want their own children to be friends with people of another race. They might say a friendship like that would be impossible. That's what they would do. Does that sound like what Republicans are doing? I don't know. What you decide. Victor Davis Hanson is a fellow at the Hoover Institution. He joins us tonight. You know what I noticed, Professor Hanson? And maybe I'm just making this up in my head, but it seems like people have a tendency to accuse others of doing the exact thing that they are doing. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I think it's really dangerous throughout history when you have a group that sets themselves up as the arbiters of morality. We saw that with the Catholic Church and the abuse problems. We saw that in the Me Too and the Hollywood liberals like Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey. They feel that they're not subject to the same standards they demand of others. And what's going on here is I think that Representative King confused Western civilization with whiteness, and they're not synonymous, especially in the global world. Japan can be more Western than Russia, but the point
it's just
is,
interesting that
you got to find out what the rules are, Tucker. Well, that's because right. We're condemning him. We have Hank Johnson, another member of the Congress, who recently compared Jews in Israel to termites, and then we've got the editor board, a person on the editorial board of the New York Times, Sarah Jiang, who said literally, I hate white people, and compared them to dogs urinating on hydrants. The New York Times was not upset. Then we've got this whole trope now in rap music. All the major marquee rappers, Ice Cube, Jay-Z, Scarface. It's just rampant anti-Semitism. We saw LeBron James, our national icon, retweeting an anti-Semitic tweet and of a rapper with no consequences. So the American people are saying to themselves, wow, what are the rules? And when you look at Trump supporters, they're not just derided as stupid or ignorant, but this new left-wing mode is to say that they stink. We saw that with Peter Strzok. I think Mr. Caputo from Politico said, remember, that they don't have any teeth. That was echoed by Rick Wilson. He also called them garbage people, a piece of S.H. blank, an FBI agent remarked. And so there's this, Jim Carrey of all, the actor, compared Trump supporters to apes. That has that simian synonym and metaphor has a really bad pedigree. So I guess what I'm saying is that anytime somebody says we're progressive and we're enlightened and we're not racist, that tends, human nature being what it is, to give them a blank check to be racist, which is your point. Remember 2008, Tucker, when Joe Biden said, remember he said about Barack Obama that he was the first black candidate who was clean, and was articulate. And then Harry Reid sort of echoed that and said he didn't have a Negro dialect and he was light-skinned. And then Bill Clinton said, well, he would have been serving us coffee. And even Al Sharpton tried to contextualize that, because the idea, again, was these are good progressives. They're good people. They couldn't be guilty of racism. That's not a window into their soul. It is with Republicans, but with Democrats and progressives and leftists, it's just inadvertent or it's allowed.
These are just
very
tools
dangerous
they use
to do that.
To win power, and we should remember that. Professor, thank you very much. By the way, if they meant it, then the Southern Poverty Law Center would have been on a lot of this stuff. You've heard of the SPLC. It's a phony anti-hate group that exists to crush people they don't like, to tar conservatives organizations as fellow travelers with the KKK or whatever. Mark Krikorian is executive director at the Center for Immigration Studies. His group just sued the SPLC for designating them as a hate group. Finally, someone is fighting back against this. What is the basis of this lawsuit, Mark?
Our attorneys decided the way to go was to file a RICO lawsuit under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, which is used in the criminal part by, against the mafia or whatever by the government, but there are civil parts where private individuals can file suit. And the basis of the claim is they are committing wire fraud by falsely describing us as a hate group in order to do harm to my organization.
Has it done harm to your organization being designated?
It's done some. I mean, we have a body, a reputation, a body of work that makes it hard to plausibly call us a hate group. I mean, we've testified before Congress more than 100 times. We've been cited in Supreme Court decisions.
Right.
We publish real professors, the work of professors from legitimate universities. Nonetheless, it has in fact had an effect. One example that we mentioned in the suit, Amazon has this program where you can designate a nonprofit group to get a small amount of revenue every time you buy something. We were removed from that program, and the person who communicated that to us made the mistake of actually saying what the reason was. In print, he said, we just get our list from the SPLC.
So that's what's remarkable to me. So the SPLC is just the Praetorian Guard of the Democratic Party, obviously, fighting for the status quo, seeking to crush anyone who stands in the way of power. But they still seem to be taken seriously by media outlets and by companies like Amazon. Why?
It's a good question. I'm not sure why. I mean, I think this is a kind of thing you see a lot in the tech industry, for instance, where they just assume that progressive political views are just the normal political views, and anybody who doesn't hold them somehow is weird, and to be shunned. And I think that's part of what it is. You see the same thing with journalism, where a lot of media simply cite the SPLC's hate group designation as just sort of a fact. This person is this old, he's wearing, a blue suit, and he's been designated as a, hate group by the SPLC. That's starting to change because they really have overreached, and they've gotten slapped down a couple of times. There was a Muslim reformer, a liberal Muslim anti-extremist.
Oh, of course.
They labeled him an extremist, and he sued. They settled because they knew they were going to lose for $3 million plus. I don't expect them to go quite that easily in this case, but I think we have a pretty strong case.
You have a very strong case. And I looked at the accusations they leveled against you because you're a guest on this show, and I was interested. And there's no basis for saying that about you. It was shocking. I think it's libel, but we're rooting for you, of course. Mark, thank you.
Thank you.